Hello everyone, my name is Junbin Yang, and I'm a doctoral student in the Physical Culture Studies Research Group at the University of Maryland. And today, in this presentation, I would like to highlight two main points. First, with a focus on the Olympic and Paralympic Games, I will look into cyborg bodies, and then I will suggest the body as a rhizomatic assemblage that can move beyond essentialist and reductionist interpretations. So, in our contemporary society, a relatively new understanding of the body emerged as people increasingly connected themselves to new technologies, the cyborg body, quote unquote, hybrid entities resulting from the fusion of an organism and manufactured technology. And perhaps one of the most explicit examples of this cyborg body is the South African athlete Oscar Pistorius, who used two prosthetic limbs when competing at the Olympic Games. Pistorius' cyborg body received continuous media attention, but more attention arguably focused on whether his impairment offered an unfair advantage compared with other athletes. Certain groups of people even viewed his participation as cheating, illustrating his assistive prosthesis as a techno-doping device. However, it is important to remember that technological assistance is more and more prevalent in the Olympic and Paralympic Games, even calling the Paralympic Games a show of technology rather than a show of athleticism. So, I argue that perceptions of cyborg bodies and then inherent normaces are different in the Olympic and Paralympic sporting context. Those with reservations about Pistorius' participation demonstrated the body policing on what is acceptably human and what is not, and therefore a desire to keep the sporting body at least visibly pure within the Olympic Games. On the other hand, the dominance of diverse technological forces normalizes the widespread celebration of cyborg bodies in the Paralympic Games, meaning that this event marginalizes those athletes who do not use technologies directly in their competitions. So, both the Olympic and Paralympic Games maintain their own normalized transhumanism, but their specific orientations are different. First, the Olympic Games continuously try to naturalize a conventional understanding of the human body by creating a line against other exceptional bodies, including those who are seen as not human enough. At the Paralympic Games, the closer a body is to a cyborg, the more capital it holds. Or, put more radically, the more effectively a body optimized for elite sports, the more recognition it can achieve. In short, both sides normalize particular prototypical human beings and corresponding normaces by centralizing either the human or the technology. More specifically, complex power dynamics reinforce ableism with the assumption that life without disability is more desirable and better than life with disability. By confirming that the body is able and normal is natural, the Olympic Games try to create an unshakable line by marginalizing disability as otherness. Also, technology-based essentialism regulates the Paralympic Games by advancing the body is able and normal is natural in conjunction with technology, while marginalizing different forms of exceptionality as otherness. However, the power dynamics of a cyborg body are usually more about the body per se. Only particular groups, such as economically privileged Western nations, can embrace these new technologies. Also, becoming an idealized cyborg is really difficult because of complex re-embodiment, reorientation processes, and suppliers' insensitivity to real users with contingent bodily formations. So, my ultimate question is, how can we achieve a more balanced interpretation that acknowledges the body's fundamental complexities? In this sense, I would like to first suggest that we should move beyond really simplistic micro, macro, and meso level absolute distinctions. Rather than focusing on individual parts, such as bodies or technologies, we can view that entities are in an endless state of becoming, the continuous interactions of numerous parts. Also, rather than simply highlighting the wholes, the Olympics or the Paralympics, we can acknowledge the agency of entities and their autonomous existence. And lastly, rather than only considering the interaction between two elements, such as technologies and bodies, we can embrace population thinking. Entities as part of populations, such as populations of other forms of bodies, technologies, and sporting events. So, I argue that heterogeneous forms of bodies should be understood as assemblages of assemblages or combinations of combinations that pertain to unique historical entities, singular in their individuality, not as particular members of a general category. They are historically complex and context-specific products and producers intertwined with multiple elements, where parts of the bigger wholes are autonomous because the relationship between parts and wholes are always contingent. The wholes cannot completely regulate the movements of their parts. Also, I want to add the concept of rhizome here. Jules Deleuze initially proposed the rhizome as a way to move beyond a conventional philosophical approach. In his view, despite its diversified strengths, the main root, the truth or the deeply rooted belief of which is true, usually controls both the beginning and end of philosophical thoughts, implying a distinct hierarchy of critical reasonings. In contrast to this single root structure or any rigid, fixed, or binary thought and judgment, which Deleuze called aberrations, the rhizomatic configuration follows the ever-shifting rootless multiplicity that does not involve an apparent start or endpoint by acknowledging the inherent complexities. So the body can be understood as a rhizomatic assemblage of assemblages that maintains a state of becoming without fixating on a prearranged development or impact. However, rather than emphasizing haphazard randomness, I want to focus more on the body's contingency with this rhizomatic assemblage that acknowledges the inherent complexities and never-ending possibilities. So, considering this open-endedness, I believe the body as a rhizomatic assemblage can relate to a post-humanist approach. However, this post-humanism is not simply about a post-anthropocentric approach. Inspired by Grossberg here, I believe it allows us to cultivate a theoretical anti-humanist and a political humanist sensibility. In conclusion, I firmly believe that ideas always matter in intellectual work. However, critical ideas and thinking are not simply about the reproduction of the same old ideas again and again. Critical thinking, critical ideas are the starting point of our own resistance. That is why muddying the waters of normalized bodies is really important. And that is why the idea of a rhizomatic assemblage matters. Here's the reference list. And thank you.